Should Darian Mensah even consider going anywhere but Miami? Yes.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day. It is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, the number one sports podcast network out there. Thank you all so much, especially my everydayers, for helping make that the case. So, are we going to talk more about the national championship? Well, yeah, of course, because I still can't fully comprehend that Indiana just went 16-0. Maybe the greatest season ever. No one's ever gone 16-0, at least not that I've been made aware of. So we'll discuss all that with Jacob Goins of Locked On Hoosiers on today's show, which is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off of your first purchase. Darian Mensah is just out there. The most highly coveted transfer quarterback that exists. Got into the portal at the 11th hour, abandoned Duke, left them in a terrible spot. I think the Blue Devils are going to pop up as what I'd call a regression candidate after, winning the ACC this year. And look, were they the most deserving team to make the ACC championship game? No. Miami wasn't the most deserving team to make the college football playoff. You play the rules as they are written. So Darian Mensah goes from Tulane to Duke, and now it feels like Miami. And after watching Carson Beck have a chance to go win the national championship game, it had to have been incredibly tempting for Darian Mensah, who may already have made his decision. As you listen to or watch this segment, maybe he's already made his decision in his head as I'm recording the show late on Monday night into Monday morning, Tuesday morning. I know how days work. Anyway, it has to be incredibly tempting and appealing to look at the Miami situation and say, I'm going to have Malachi Toney to throw the football to. I'm going to have an offensive line I can trust, even though Francis Mauigoa is going to the NFL draft. Mark Fletcher's going to be back running the football. Boy, you got a lot to be excited about there. A program that was just one drive from the national championship game. Incredibly appealing. If I were Darian Mensah, would I consider other locations? Yes. Absolutely. You just have to think about what your goals are. Is your goal to give yourself the best possible chance before you probably go into the NFL draft at some point to win a national championship? Is that your goal? Is that your objective? Well, in Miami, of all the places that still need a quarterback, is probably the best place to go and do that. It's one of them. It's one of them. Is your objective to boost your NFL draft stock as much as you can? Cam Ward did it one way, but this version of Miami that's a better actual team, I think did something for Carson Beck's NFL draft stock. I don't know that it radically changed it as much as it did for Cam Ward the year before. And I think the Miami program, by the way, is better off because of that. So the two other schools that you should keep an eye on in this transfer recruitment, Tennessee and Ole Miss. I don't know if contact has been made. I think it would be malpractice if those schools haven't reached out to Darian Mensah. Because a guy that could come in and start at any of those places immediately, and who, by the way, are already telling you they don't feel amazing about the in-house options they have, of course you should go out and try to get Darian Mensah. I don't know if you would, but Josh Heupel's track record with quarterbacks is very good. And Trinidad Chambliss just had Ole Miss one drive from the national championship game. Not a bad place to be. I'd rather go to Ole Miss than Tennessee right now. But hey, Tennessee's not a bad place to go for quarterbacks. And the reason I made that remark about them not liking what they have in-house is both of those schools are waiting to hear as to whether the quarterbacks they had this past season are going to get another year of eligibility. This is not an Indiana situation where you're going from Mendoza, who you know is going to the NFL draft, to Josh Hoover. No, there will be a battle in Knoxville. There will be questions and an expected regression, according to Stephen Willis of Locked On Ole Miss when he was last on this program discussing the very matter. If Chambliss isn't given another year, if Joey Aguilar doesn't get another chance to play college football, then those two quarterback rooms, well, let's just say the coaching staffs are trying to get those veterans another year for a reason. They know that's the best option available. So going out to get Darian Mensah, you should absolutely call. You got to call your NIL collective leader or director, whatever those titles are for those folks. I honestly don't even know, quite frankly, and say, how much can we offer? It's going to have to be at least $5 million. Duke had signed him to a 2-year contract that was paying him $4 million per year. And he just proved that he is worth that. I mean, the Blue Devils, the ACC champions. They weren't the best team in the ACC, but they were the champions. They were something, and they weren't there because of their defense. They were there because Darian Mensah was balling out all season long. I mean, the numbers that guy could put up, if you not just gave him a better receiving core, he had a solid one. There are more talented ones in college football. If you gave him a consistent run game, if you gave him a defense that could not put so much pressure on that side, Darian Mensah could be elite. I've got no qualms, questions, or doubts about that whatsoever. Miami does make the most sense. And if Miami gets Darian Mensah, they will be right back in the national championship picture come 2026 because they've recruited very well. They've proved they can develop very well. You're going to have talent at positions of great importance. You've got a coaching staff that hasn't been poached. You've got Corey Heatherman and Shannon Dawson for another year. I'm sure there will be some Miami fans that if they get Mensa will say it's national title or bust. And it'll be their third straight transfer quarterbacking. Guess what? Pretty good results. I think Mensa is another example of how high school recruiting for quarterbacks has just changed so much in the portal era. But I just go back to the Moneyball line every time. Some folks want to hop in my comments on this show or on my other show as well, Locked on Ducks, and say, well, what's the point of recruiting high school kid? You're not going to develop. You're not going to do this. Adapt or die. Yeah, it's different. It's not what it used to be. But here are the last 4 quarterbacks to play in the national championship game. Will Howard, Riley Leonard, they were transfers. Mercenaries, so to speak. Carson Beck, mercenaries. Fernando Mendoza. Oh, let's go back to the prior year. Michael Penix, one-time transfer. J.J. McCarthy. There you go. One of the last 6 that have made the national championship game. That's just the way of the world. So, Miami's a perfect fit. And if Miami doesn't get him, I don't know what their options are. They won't be very good. But Ole Miss and Tennessee, I'd pick up the phone and make a call. So, leave your thoughts in the YouTube comments below. Hit me up on Twitter, however you want to get in touch. Indiana, set for the future. They have changed college football forever. First, this episode brought to you by our friends at Game Time. There's nothing like college football season. Tailgates, packed stadiums, being right there in the middle of it all. Oh, and we have to wait until August until that comes back. But when that time comes, Game Time is the place that you want to get tickets. Or if you want to go to any type of event between now and then guess what? Game Time's got that too. Game Time is the way to go. Getting tickets used to be frustrating with long queues, logins, prices jumping at checkout. That's why Game Time gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to unlock amazing college football tickets and experiences for all sorts of stuff in just a few tabs. I've used Game Time myself to go to college football games, to go to college basketball games, to go to comedy shows. And guess what? I've saved money every time. The process is great. The tickets are right on my phone. I've got tickets on my phone that I got from Game Time. And guess what? You know why I use Game Time? Because I save money compared to other ticketing services. Going to see a comedy show in Las Vegas in a couple months. Absolutely stoked. And I'm happy as always with how Game Time made it happen. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets or any tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Indiana, the national champions in football in the 2025 season. Jacob Goins, Locked On Hoosiers, is here.
Yeah, baby.
On our live stream yesterday, Goins, you posed a question that I still don't have the answer to. Mm-hmm. How long will it take for this to fully set in?
I'm there. I'm good.
I know you are. I'm just saying for people like me,
yeah,
to wrap your mind around the idea of Indiana winning the national championship is a paradigm shifter. I mean, this completely changes the way you look at college football. Anything is possible if Indiana can not just win the national championship, but go 16-0, beat Oregon twice, and beat Ohio State in the same year, and Alabama by 35.
Yeah.
If all of that is possible, I don't know if when making predictions for teams, I don't know that there's such a thing as a hot take anymore in the Power Four. I'm being dead serious. I don't think there is. Like,
you
if
can't
I can't
look at a team and be like, I think they're going to win the national championship, or I think they're going to make the college football playoff. No longer can somebody say, you're an idiot, that's a stupid take. Because anything is possible, right?
Anything.
Call me Paul Pierce. Anything is possible.
Wake Forest could win the ACC in 2026.
It's possible.
100%.
It's possible. Because in 2012,
Virginia Tech.
Yeah, I mean, 2012, college football was so lopsided, right? Because of how it was stacked up and the rules that were maybe or maybe not being followed. And of course, teams in the Southeastern Conference and Ohio State here and there, they were dominating college football. But all of a sudden, we open up the rules and we let other people get involved. And it's like, holy crap, other people can win. What a crazy idea. And so, yeah, anybody can find the right coach. Any place can commit the money. Any place can say, we want to compete. We're going to try and win right now. That's what Indiana did. It worked in a very, very short amount of time. And I'm not saying that should be the absolute standard across college football, but I think there's hope now. And I think that's why, for me and Indiana people, yes, it's exciting that Indiana won the national championship, but I think this is good for college football. I think Indiana doing what they've done is fantastic for our sport. This has a chance, Spencer, to completely reset and wipe the slate clean of what we have thought about with the college football we know, right? It doesn't have to be the Oregons and the Alabamas and the Alabama or the Ohio States of the world. It doesn't have to be those teams every year. They're still going to be there. Don't get me wrong. But Indiana will be there too. And a team like Michigan State could get there too. A team like Florida State could get back, who has lost all relevancy, it seems like, in the blink of an eye. Like, those teams are all able to just be there. And that's what's cool about Indiana winning it all.
I think one of the common themes when you ponder the non-traditional brands that have had success, Indiana falls into this camp. Vanderbilt in the SEC being a 10-win team. Virginia was one game from the college football playoff this year. I didn't have that on my radar coming into this season. Arizona State went from 3-9 to champions of the Big 12 and literally one play from the national semifinal a year ago when they had Texas down to a 4th and 13. I think the common thread there, at least amongst those examples, because this popped into my head, the portal has allowed them to get a level of quarterback play they wouldn't otherwise have obtained. I think that's the biggest difference. And I've talked about this before, that the portal has been the biggest equalizer for college football. And I think most people look at it as well, these top teams, especially in the SEC, can't stack talent like they used to. That's true. There is truth to that. To be sure, NIL, I think, helps spread it out as well. The bigger impact to me, I mean, Virginia was right there with who? Chandler Morris, a transfer. Indiana won it with who? Fernando Mendoza, a transfer. In the 12-team era, 3 of the 4 quarterbacks that have made the title game have been transfers. And I think think about Vanderbilt, how have they been able to rise up? Yeah, they've got some good players they've developed and found, but guess what? It's Diego Pavia that has made that engine go. And it's a fascinating question going forward. What do they do without Diego Pavia? What does that program become? But I think that component of it is what has allowed for these teams to get to this level, is they're getting a level of play behind center that they just would not have had.
And it makes you, it makes you competitive. We've always known, right, that college football, you've had to have a good quarterback there. There have been ups and downs in the waves of our sport where sometimes you need an elite quarterback. Sometimes you just need a smart game manager quarterback. And sometimes it's a little bit in between, but you still have to have somebody that's got something between the ears, that knows what they're doing and can make the throws when it counts. And I think you're absolutely spot on. It's the idea that Indiana can go to this portal, right? And we hear the portal and we know what it is, but think about what it actually is for a second. You get on a website and there are thousands of names that you can just start scrolling through, watch all their film, look at all their stats and say, we kind of like that guy. Let's go reach out. Let's see what we can do. And then on top of having a good head coach, having a good offensive coordinator, having the NIL dollars to compete, all of that is what makes today's era of college football different than any other that we've ever been in. That's why Indiana is winning a national championship. And that's also why the Hoosiers are not going anywhere. I know we're going to talk more about that in a moment, but Indiana's not going anywhere. And other teams that can get to this status, whether it takes 1, 2, 5, 10 years, you can get here and not have a major drop off. This doesn't have to be a one-hit wonder. You can build a program this way and it lasts for the future, whatever the changes that are going to happen in our sport of college football. Also, Spencer, believe that's the second time I've screwed up a basketball reference in the past 2 weeks. I first screwed up Allen Iverson and Vince Carter. I got my Celtics mixed up. That is Kevin Garnett who said anything is possible, screaming into the mic, not Paul Pierce. So that's on me. Paul Pierce is the one that got wheeled off in a wheelchair because he was injured.
Correct. And then I think he came back later in the game. Anyway, we don't need to go down that rabbit hole and metaphorically dunk on a Kansas Jayhawk legend. But I think going forward for college football as a whole, and then later we'll get to Indiana and why they're going to be right back in this picture for 2026. Mm-hmm. I still think there's more than one way to build a national title contender. I think that what Indiana has shown is you can do it with the transfer guys, and you can bring in a bunch of guys, and you can not pay a ton of attention to high school recruiting. I don't think that's the only formula that's ever going to win a national championship. I think plenty of schools should try to be like Indiana in many ways. I think finding the right fit, though, whether it's from the high school or the portal ranks, that I think from a talent acquisition standpoint is what stands out the most to me, is Indiana has got the right type of guys that fit their scheme, that fit their staff, that fit their locker room. Mm-hmm. It just all works in perfect harmony. And that, I think, is what other schools have to try and emulate. Because you look at a place like Colorado, for example, which has been a fascinating portal case study. Well, yeah, they don't build through high school recruiting. They build in all these transfers. And what happened last year? Yeah, the culture kind of took a hit. The on-field product took a major hit as well, and it wasn't as successful. But then you look at Indiana and go, well, their culture seems to be really, really good.
Yeah, exactly. I look at Texas A&M when they were doing it with big 5-star high school recruits, and I look at Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin when they were getting 75% of their roster as transfer portal guys. They got better, but Ole Miss was using good talent and stacking it over time. They didn't just go bam like that and win a national championship. It sometimes you hit and sometimes you miss. They were just going after anybody they could. A&M and the high school recruiting places was going just as big as name as they could possibly get, paying them and doing what they needed to do. You're absolutely right. Indiana finds guys in the portal. They find guys in high school recruiting. They're top 30 pretty much anywhere you look in both of those rankings last year and going into next year too. But they're okay with that. They don't care. Indiana doesn't care about the rankings. They have proven if you can play and you can fit our system and you just do what you need to do, we're going to make you better and we're going to win with you on our football team.
Yeah. And they're not going anywhere. We'll tell you why coming up next. So the Hoosiers are going absolutely nowhere. Miami, very repeatable formula to be sure. Mark Fletcher, I believe, is back. I'm sure there'll be some discipline handed out with the punch that got thrown after.
Yeah, how about that?
The game. I mean, tensions are running high. I got to be honest, I don't put a ton of stock into it.
I don't condone it. That's not cool.
No,
take your L and walk away.
It's not okay, but I'm not going to come on here and say Mark Fletcher should never play college. It's just his emotions. Got the Indiana D linemen's talking smack there. It's just you don't know what was said. Anyway, so Miami didn't feel like a flash in the pan. This has been a slow, steady build for the Hurricanes under Mario Cristobal that almost culminated in their first national championship since, I don't remember the last.
02, I think. 02.
Yeah, 01, 02, in that sort of range. I'll Google it in a sec. But they've got real questions at quarterback. As we record this show, they haven't yet landed Darian Mensah. Maybe that's right around the corner. We'll have to wait and see. But talk about the Hoosiers for a moment, Jacob, because this is just reload time. Not in the reset. No, this is reload, and Indiana is going to be right back in the thick of things in 2026.
Well, it's remarkable because Indiana has reloaded and they've brought in an incredible transfer portal class, or set to bring in that transfer portal class. And they've done it, Spencer, because of a broken college football calendar that you and I have talked about. It's more difficult to fix than we think. They've done it while they were preparing to win a national championship. They did it while beating the brakes off of Alabama, beating the brakes off of Oregon, and then preparing to beat Miami by a one score in the national title game. They went and replaced their quarterback. They went and replaced both running backs. They went and got a new wide receiver, one possibly, with Nick Marsh. Like, they have gone and gotten dudes that they knew they needed. And some of the time off, I really do think, in a weird way, because now the portal is open for Indiana and Miami the next 5 days. It's open, and who knows what's going to happen with that. Good news is Indiana's already had those conversations. They've already talked to all these guys. They knew going into the Natty what was going to happen. They knew who was coming back. They knew who was leaving. They knew who was out of eligibility, and they already have a good idea on who's going to replace them. Names you need to know: Josh Hoover, the TCU quarterback, top 5 quarterback in the portal. He will be replacing Fernando Mendoza. He'll step right in line. I think he's going to be very good in Bloomington. You also bring in Turbo, our guy at the running back position. Still looking to probably get one more as of right now, but you bring back Kobe Martin, the freshman, Lee Beebe Jr., who looked good before he got injured. He was the UAB transfer. But there's a couple of names floating out there that Indiana is still up in the air on. And as of this recording, no official news has been released. And that's Omar Cooper in the receiver room and D'Angelo Pons in the cornerback room. D'Angelo Pons is leaving. That is, I mean, I just think that's a no-brainer for me. The guy is probably a second-round pick at the corner spot. He's a top 5 corner in college football. I think he goes to the NFL. There's some questions on the offensive line, too, with guys like Drew Evans and Carter Smith if they decide to go to the NFL draft. But Indiana's brought in several dudes, including Joe Brunner, the big one from P4. So that's why Indiana's not going anywhere, Spencer, because they've reloaded. You get the DB from AJ Harris, the DB from Penn State. Yeah. He's awesome. Can't wait NFL to see guy. Him. Yeah, and you know what position he plays? Corner, which is kind of a telling sign of what D'Angelo Pons could do. So all of that to say, Indiana's losing a lot, right? You lose guys like Fernando, because he's going to the draft. You lose guys like Aiden Fisher, Michael Kamara, those guys who have built this thing in the last couple of years. Yeah, it sucks. They're leaving, but Indiana's replacing them. And now, here's what's cool. Before it was, well, Indiana's getting 3 stars and maybe a 4-star here and there, but they fit the system. Indiana likes them. They'll make them good. Now Indiana's going to get 4 stars and some 5-star flirts that they like, and that can fit their system. And they're winning national titles with 3 stars. Watch out, ladies and gentlemen. If Indiana has 4 and 5 stars, it may be the start of something beautiful in Bloomington, Indiana.
Yeah, one of my favorite stories of the offseason that will be discussed frequently here on the show is what the recruiting fallout is from all of this, because the Hoosiers have had no brand, no identity. They popped onto the scene last year, but when you win the Big Ten and the national championship in the same year, boy, that does something for the brand recognition on the recruiting trail. And I know that most of you listening to or watching this show are diehard college football fans in all likelihood.
Hope so.
Who last year realized that Indiana going 11-2 was a big deal. I can guarantee you, amongst high school kids, it didn't make anywhere close to the same level of impact as this year. I bet there are some that realized Indiana was an 11-game winner in 2024 for the first time when they won this year. Like, wait, where did Indiana come? Oh, well, they're really good the year before. Yeah, you can do more. And we know Indiana's administration and financial situation's committed to winning at a high level. Kurt Cignetti and the coordinators not going anywhere. And then you look at their schedule for 2026 going, and I tell you what,
it's not bad.
It's not a cakewalk, as long as you ignore the non-conference, which is a joke. It's ridiculous.
Which we will ignore.
The Big Ten, you're going to ignore. No. Don't, none of this we. There's no we will ignore. There's you will ignore. And
you better
the national championship game and everything Indiana just did and accomplished is all the more reason why I want to see them play a quality, high-profile non-conference game, and why they should be required to do so. The Big Ten needs to step up to the plate on that. But that
Don't
might
hate
depend.
on the Mean Green from North Texas.
I will. I will at any particular moment.
All they're missing is their quarterback and their coach and basically everybody off.
Oh, and their leading running back and receiver. Yeah, other than those guys, sure, they could reload for the fine folks in Denton. But yeah, North Texas, Howard, Western Kentucky, it's a joke. But in Big Ten play, the 4 games that stand out the most to me: Ohio State, USC, Michigan, and Washington. Now, that's a pretty solid lineup of high-profile football games for the Indiana Hoosiers. And here's the good news. Of those 4 games, 2 of them are at home, and it's Ohio State and USC.
Huge.
I mean, you go out Michigan and out Washington, not an easy place to go either. Ohio State this past year, the reigning national champs. 3rd straight year, by the way, the Huskies will host the reigning national champ in Big Ten play, because they did it with Michigan the year before as well and won. They lost to Ohio State. Ohio State was the first Big Ten team to go to Seattle and win a football game.
How about that nugget?
They were the first one to do it in conference play. And guess what? I'd take the Hoosiers right now.
Yeah, I mean, other games in there: Minnesota, Northwestern, Purdue, Rutgers. Like those aren't even pencils or pen-ins. Those are double Sharpie in. I mean, those you're gonna roll. You do have a tricky game on the road at Nebraska. We'll see what they're going to be. You never really know, right? We also don't know.
You know who their quarterback's gonna be?
No.
Anthony Calandria. Mountain West Offensive Player of the Year at UNLV. Just played a season for head coach Dan Mullen and led the Rebels to a 10-win season and berth in the Mountain West Championship game, which they lost for a 3rd straight year.
So he left them to go to Nebraska, and then UNLV picks up Jackson Arnold to replace him.
That is correct.
Interesting. I missed that. I didn't know he went to Nebraska.
Well, you're clearly not an everydayer of Locked On College Football because you're a nerd.
Well, some of us have national championships to worry about and not what Nebraska football is up to. But we don't know what order this is in, right? But yeah, Minnesota, Northwestern, Purdue, Rutgers. Like, those games are terrible.
I can't see less than 10 wins. I don't know why I would pick less than 11.
You mentioned it. Ohio State, USC at home. That's so awesome, dude. Ohio State getting to come here, USC getting to come here. That's
one
huge.
Of the games of the year.
Cool road trips to Ann Arbor, right? And then going out to Seattle. And then that's it. That's your schedule. Like, Indiana is back to the playoffs next year. On paper, they're a playoff team.
12, 16, 2014 playoff. I don't think it matters.
Doesn't matter.
I don't think it matters. 10-2 with that schedule would get you in. I don't think Indiana's going 10-2. Eventually, they've got to lose a couple one-possession games. Eventually, they're going to lose a football game again. I just don't know when. And I'm with you that I'm fascinated to see how the order of all of this shakes out, because that matters a lot. But that is why our coverage here at the Locked On Network rolls along all offseason from now until the 2026 season kicks off at the end of August. He is Jacob Goins of Locked On Hoosiers. I'm Spencer McLaughlin, of course. Appreciate everyone listening. See you next time, and until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.